sure.
Right? Are you sure you want to do this? So kicking it off, welcome to another episode of The Paranormal Misfit. I am Chrissy, your podcast host, and with me today is the lovely Clarissa. You may know her either as an author, she does write horror and spooky thrillers, or you may also definitely know her, this is the way I know her, is from the 30, Dirty, and Dying podcast that you can find on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere else you're streaming.
Yep, pretty much everywhere.
Okay, cool. So how are you doing today, Clarissa?
I'm good. I'm, 30, dirty, and dying, but that's just a way of life now. But yeah, I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Yeah, I just yeah, totally. The millennial part, just all of it.
Yeah, that's our whole vibe.
Okay. So, I do know that you just put it out on the Instagram today, but your book is going to be dropping in October, which when this goes live, it'll be in October, obviously. But so would you like to discuss about your different books and then your newest book that's coming out?
Sure, yeah. So my book it's actually my debut. So this is my first and only book that'll be out. Hopefully soon there'll be more if I can ever find time to write them. But yeah, this is my debut. It's a novella. It's a horror novella. It's called Cafe Vengeance. And it's really short. So that's, I think, a good incentive to get it and read it. Because, like, even if you hate it, it's a very little chunk of your life. And basically, it's a little different than what I usually write. Just because we've talked about this offline, like, I am from Appalachia, so I like to try and infuse that in my writing. And this one isn't so much that. It's a story that's kind of been in my head for a really long time, and I just fleshed it out. And yeah, it's like a supernatural, gory horror thing.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can answer more specific questions better, I hope.
Oh.
That's the worst part about writing a book, because like you work so hard on it and you try to do the story so much justice, and then someone's like, "What's it about?" And it's like, I don't know.
I know. I'll ask my
Stuff?
daughter. I was like, "What'd you read?" She goes, "Stuff," and I'm like, "Are you
Yeah,
serious?"
it's like, whoosh, it's out. I got it out. Now it's gone.
So what inspires you to go a different route?
Well, so like I said, this was something that I had the story idea for a really long time, like since I was back in school and everything. And I had written a really short version of it, and it just kind of went on a shelf, and that was that. And then at some point I decided to revisit it, and it's heavily inspired by like Dante and Inferno and the Divine Comedy. And the concept was basically like, everyone in the like Western world of religions is so afraid of going to hell.
Right.
I was like, what if, I just kind of like ran with that. And as I did, it kind of took on a different tone of, I like to call it goth-ish horror. Like, it's not quite gothic horror, but it's similar because it's very atmospheric. It's very much about this cafe, which is a portal to one of the deepest circles of hell. And that's where this guy ends up, because he definitely deserves it. So just like that, running with that story and that narrative of like eternal damnation and like the classic iterations of it made me go down this path and away from some of my normal themes and subject matter, but still kind of in the same vein. Like I do like religious horror and writing about religious trauma, and there's a whole lot of that in horror, as I'm sure you know. So
yes.
Yeah, that was a big part of it for me. It just took a slightly different tone, I guess.
Okay. So I know you say it's called Cafe Vengeance. Is it in a more fictional town, or have you based it around like a city, maybe here in the States?
I put it in New York City, just because I can see how, when I was thinking of the setting and sort of how this character would stumble upon it, it seemed like something that could blend in very well to just like the streets on and off in New York. Like, there's so much happening that it's really easy for something to happen in the background and no one to really notice it.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. So you say it's a short one. How short? How many pages did you write?
I think we just finished up like the final formatting stuff. So I think it shakes out to being a little less than 100, like altogether. So yeah, it's really short. It's like I think there's another term like in between novella and short story called like novelette. Maybe it's technically that. I don't know. I don't like have a
Yeah. No,
definition on my wall, but
right.
something like that. But yeah, it's about a little less than 100 pages, maybe 80-ish when it comes to the actual story part of it.
Okay, cool. I'm really excited to read it. Honestly, it sounds great.
Oh,
I
I'm
love
glad
that.
you are. I've
I
been
love
trying
that
to
kind of stuff. So
good. I hope other people feel the same. I will say, even though it's a departure from some of my usual stuff and probably some of the stuff that people will see from me going forward,
Mhm.
I like it. I think it's a cool little story, and it's very, if you like a lot of imagery, I said there's some gore in there. If you like a lot of that kind of imagery, if you like a lot of classical influence and like that gothic kind of vibe where it's like you need to get out of here,
Mhm.
you might end up really liking this one because it's kind of visually smacks you in the face a little bit
That's
with some
awesome.
of the circles of hell stuff that goes on.
It almost sounds like just to relate it to a movie, The Ninth Gate.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of similar to that. That was something that came into my mind a little bit. The also Drag Me to Hell,
Yes.
similar vibes, like someone who's just like can't get out of that space and being surrounded by those kind of things. And I don't know, I always growing up in like Western religion and stuff, you hear a lot of things about eternal damnation and going to hell, and for a lot of reasons, some of them I don't see how they could send you someplace like that.
Right.
So I thought if we're gonna do this, let's do it right. And it's the main character is he's an anti-hero. If you walk away from this liking the main character,
Mhm.
I question you as a person. He's not a good dude. Like I'm not like there's no like, but he has a heart of gold. No, he don't. He does not have one.
You're like,
Um
it might be like the fake gold here.
yeah, exactly. Like cubic zirconia kind of vibes. Like and but I thought that was interesting because it's like we hear so much about who deserves to go to hell and who doesn't
Mhm.
deserve to go to hell. And I was like, here's a guy who does.
Right.
Um and like but how does it feel when you actually are reading like his journey through that? Does it do you sympathize? Do you not? Like
Yeah.
it's a tricky thing.
Hmm. Well, that'll be really cool. So, when the book comes out, where can everyone find it?
So I believe it's gonna be, on the big hitters, Amazon. You might be able to find it in some shelves. Especially like if you have local like indie stores or
Mhm.
smaller bookstores, I would definitely check there. I don't have a distribution list quite. I probably will by the time this airs. So, um, but it will be for sure on the website of the publisher that is,
Okay.
putting the book out, and their Tea with Coffee Media. And I believe the website is twcoffee.media.
Okay.
And you can buy it there, and you can actually pre-order it there up until it comes out, and it's like less than $10 right now, so pretty good deal, I
Okay.
guess.
That's awesome. Do you plan on doing any small like readings from it on your podcast?
Yeah, we're playing with that idea a little bit. It's kind of every October on 30 Dirty and Dying, even though we're not necessarily a spooky podcast,
Mhm.
we get spooky because it's spooky season and we
Right.
love it. So we'll be doing some like Halloween and spook themed episodes. So we'll definitely be throwing some information in there and maybe some readings, maybe some tidbits, and I don't know, we might be able to throw a giveaway together or something like that. So all the more reason to listen, follow, all that jazz.
That's right. So, I guess, are you gonna do any like small book tours or anything
That's kind of stuff is in the works. I honestly will probably know a lot of that like by the end of this
by the end of
week.
it?
Yeah. Like we're in the very like the planning parts right now.
Okay.
So some of that very possibly and if I can and if it works out, it'll probably be like in the mid-Atlantic region, like Washington D.C. region, maybe in West Virginia some like that sort of East Coast
Yeah.
area.
Okay.
And then, if I can go anywhere else, that would be super cool. So stay tuned. I'll
Sweet.
definitely post about all that stuff when I have the information and when it's
I was,
all solidified.
I was about to say, if you make it down to Florida, let me know.
Well, maybe. I don't know. That would be quite a
That would-
trek, but
right. So did this start out as a hobby? Because I know for me, like in high school, my friends and I, we used to get together and we'd write like funny little fandoms or whatever of the different books we read at the time, like Silver Kiss, Blood and Chocolate, stuff like that. So for you, was it more of a career route, or was it more of a like where you solidified in making it a career, or was it more started out as a hobby and then kind of like unfolded?
I've always kind of been into writing from when I was a little kid. I would write like little stories and I was a fan fiction kid,
Mhm.
full disclosure, early 2000s on Quizilla.
All
That
the
was me. I no shame unless you find it and then I'll completely deny it. Um, but no, so I always liked it as a hobby growing up and I always kind of had it in my head like, oh, I'll be a writer one day.
yeah,
Um, and then, I grew up a little bit. I had to go to college. I had to pick something that it was like, you should try to make a paycheck. That'd be good.
right.
And I got into some forms of professional writing, like journalism and stuff like that, which I'm not in anymore. But so I was always kind of there with it a little bit, but I always had in the back of my head, like, I'd really like to get back into creative writing. And if I can make it a career, cool. And if not, you know, at least I can get some of my creativity out. And it's one of my few coping skills. So that's what I'm using it for, I guess.
There you go.
So yeah, a little bit of half and half. I've always wanted to do it. Took some different routes and here we are. So hopefully it can kind of keep growing from here and you'll see more from me. I hope. Like I said, I gotta write the crap, but hopefully I will.
Right. You just got to make the time, which
Yeah.
obviously there's never enough.
Yeah, never.
So your background is you're from the Appalachia area. So where in the Appalachia area are you from?
I'm from West Virginia, so I live in a different kind of part of the state that's a little bit closer to DC metropolis and stuff now.
Hmm.
But I'm been from kind of all over the state, including like southern central West Virginia. So, hollers, hills, all that, you know. So
Oh,
in there.
I know all of the terminology now. My youngest loves watching he falls asleep to Mountain Monsters. I think is the name of
Oh,
the show. Yeah, Mountain Monsters, where
okay.
they're looking for cryptids. And I'm like, my husband's from Tennessee. And I go, what's a holler? And he
Yeah.
goes, what? And I was like, what's a holler? I was like, what's a crick? Like,
Those might
what
be
are
some of my favorite questions is when people are like, but what is it though? Like,
these? Right? You're like, it's a holler.
yeah, it's
That's all
just
he
a
said to
holler.
me. And I was like, but what does it mean?
Yeah. And it's so like excuse me. Like I said, I've kind of been from all over, but particularly from that's kind of where I had some of my formative years. And then I started going to school in these other areas that still West Virginia, but a little bit, further east and closer to some of these metropolis areas.
Yeah.
And if people think of like Appalachia or West Virginia as like a monolith, trust me, it's not. Like coming from just like one county to another,
Hmm.
people are like, "What's a holler though?" I'm like, "We're still in West Virginia." Like, or they'll tell me what they think a holler is, and I'm like, "That's just a street that's paved." So there's differences all around.
So living in the area, have you had any haunted encounters or anything? So I do know for West Virginia, especially the Appalachian area, right? You have maybe you have your paranormal stuff that goes on, all the way up through. You have obviously the big trail where people are known to go missing.
Yeah,
And
which
then,
I've never gone to. I don't camp. I'm
right.
not really an outdoor sports kind of kid. But I'll say if you go camping alone on the Appalachian Trail, I would really advise against it. And it's
Right.
not me just being super spooky. It's like it's just not a smart idea.
That's how I feel. I'm like, wouldn't you
Yeah.
want to go camping where there's other people around? Like that's just me.
Yeah, like in a group setting or
Yeah.
something. I don't know. But no, we do have a lot of that. I mean, the big hitters people know. Mothman is
Yeah.
probably our most famous
Biggest one.
celebrity. Everybody loves Mothman.
Have you been to the
Um,
festival before?
I haven't. No, it's like
No.
on the complete other side of the state, and I've
Oh.
been near like that area, but I've never been to the festival, and I really want to go. Um, But we have Mothman, we have the Flatwoods Monster, which
Yeah.
is kind of that's closer to where I'm like quote unquote from.
Okay.
So I had a little bit more insight to that one. And then we do have a lot of the paranormal history, like especially in this eastern part of the state because of the Civil War, like Harper's Ferry, John Brown, like that all happened right around here.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of stuff. And I will say I've been in some of those courthouses and stuff, and I think they're haunted. I straight up I think they're haunted. I've never had any like no ghost has ever pushed me down or anything, but
Right.
there's a vibe. For sure there's a vibe.
Do you have any childhood haunting stories or anything? Like anything that you experienced growing up that you couldn't necessarily explain, but you do know that maybe someone else has encountered it as well, so you know you're not alone on it?
Sure, I've got a couple. They don't one is something that people like when I'm on TikTok and people are talking about the hauntings in Appalachia and all that stuff.
Right.
There's one I have that's somewhat similar to that. When I was living, down near Flatwoods and stuff, I was very little. And they say that if you hear someone calling your name from
Mhm.
in the woods, like, no, you
Don't.
didn't. Don't go in there. And I did have that happen to me when I was a little kid.
Oh no.
Um, at one of my grandparents' houses, it was like I could hear it like clear as day. And I walked outside and, I realized it was coming from the woods and I was like, no,
No, we're okay.
no. And I was only like 5. So I was like, no way. Um, and then I did see a ghost when I was a little kid once, but it wasn't really a Appalachian thing. It was just like a lady died in a house thing.
Oh, like one of the houses you guys lived in? Or
One of the houses my other grandmother lived in. Um, I don't know exactly how old I was, but younger than 6
yeah.
probably. And the way her house was set up, it was like there was only one bathroom and you had to go through the bedroom to get to it. So I
Oh,
was like going through to go to the bathroom and I walked into the bedroom and I see this old woman like clear as day just walking across the room, like hunched over. She had a green shawl on. Like I could name you everything about her. And I'm just staring at her like,
who are you?
what? Like frozen, like like can't comprehend what is going on. And then she stopped in the middle of the room and like looked at me and then she just vanished.
Oh no.
Yeah. But then the weird thing about it though is because you could just say, oh, you're a kid and kids,
Yeah.
or make stuff up and have imaginary friends and whatever. But I had after that I wasn't going to the bathroom because I was like,
No,
screw
we're good.
that. Give me some more diapers. I'm going back.
You're
And
like pull-ups for days.
yeah, no way. I am reverting. There's no way I'm going in there. And finally, my mom and my grandma were like, what's going on? Like, why won't you go to the bathroom? And I told them, and I described the lady like to a T. And my grandma was like, oh my God, I don't know her real name, but let's call her Barbara for the sake of this. That's
Yeah.
Barbara's mom. And apparently, the people who had that house right before my grandmother, it was a small town, everybody knew each
Right.
other.
Yeah.
Her mom had that house and she died there in the bedroom, and that was their house. And I didn't know that. I was like a little kid and I didn't know Barbara or Barbara's mom or nothing, but I was like, well, that's her.
You're like a founder.
Yeah. Ever since then, I've been like, ghosts are real. I I have my
Go.
proof.
So, I don't know about West Virginia. I know down here, Jacksonville doesn't really have much, right? So I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, but I actually live 45 minutes out of St. Augustine, Florida, where we have tons of like, you could do haunted pub crawls, you could do regular walks,
Oh
you could
yeah.
do going into Ripley's at night, going into the jail at night, going around the fort. So like for West Virginia and the areas that, you frequent, do you take part in a lot of those?
I have done there is like a haunted ghost walk. Like I said, over like near where Harper's Ferry and stuff is, and I've done that like years ago. I haven't done it, but it's on my list of things I really want to do is go to the Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, which has its big history. You used to be able to sleep there. I don't know if you still can, but I'm not doing that.
You're like,
But I
no, we're
would
okay.
like to go. Yeah, it's got a big kind of following in the whole haunted
Yeah.
spooky season vein. But yeah, because of the area and especially like in the eastern part with the Civil War and stuff, there's so much history, there's a
Mhm.
lot of like that paranormal undercurrent. And so
Right.
there's a lot to offer when it comes to that kind of stuff.
So as far as the cryptids, which cryptids do you actually
Believe
believe?
in?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want the Mothman to come for me here, but I don't know that I believe in Mothman,
Right.
but he is important to us.
He brings a lot of people.
Yeah, his spirit is very real. I don't know
Right.
if the actual Mothman is though. I don't know if I'd say believe, but the story of the Flatwoods monster, and how it was just kind of seen and the government kind of
Just brushed it off.
experimentation aspects. I like that one a little better. I could see that as being something kind of cool and cryptid, or at least having a layer of mystery. We'll
Right.
see. Like I could vibe with that one a little bit. Um, so yeah, that was probably my favorite, at least out of my locals. Um, Haunted places that I enjoy around here, like I said, the Harper's Ferry stuff is really cool. I would really recommend anybody, to check it out. And even if you're just like a big history nerd, like I'm kind of a big history nerd and I love that stuff. And if you like that and you like some ghosts,
Right.
2 for 1 sale.
Do you guys have any haunted inns? Like places?
Yeah, one of the inns up there is supposedly haunted. Oh man, I'm gonna forget what it's called now. Um, I think it might. Oh, I'm not gonna remember. I don't wanna blast another inn and then be like, we're not haunted. But it's in
Sorry.
that general area, like the Harper's Ferry area. I'm sure if people look it up, they'll find
They'll
the one
find
I'm
it.
talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's supposedly haunted. And then I think there are a few others, like when you get toward like Wheeling, which is up near like Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that area. But I'm not as familiar with them, so I don't want to.
You don't want to say it just in
Yeah,
case.
I don't want to get in trouble with them.
Okay. So, trying to think. Well, tell me a little bit more about, so how did you guys come up with the 30 dirty and dying? I know there's
Okay.
30. I know there's one called 30 flirty and thriving.
Yeah, so that's kind of where the name came from. I think it's
Okay.
in that Jennifer Garner movie, 13 Going on 30.
I love that
She's
movie.
like, yeah, 30, flirty, and thriving. And basically, Courtney, my co-host, is one of my best friends. We've been friends for like over 10 years. And we recently we live in the same place. We're a little bit more settled down than we ever have been. Well, me, I was the one who ran around and was all Rolling Stone. Um, but as we kind of reconnected, we realized like we're in this similar place in life where it's like we're settled down, but we're not like 30, flirty, and thriving. We're kind of in a constant state of existential dread.
And
And
survival mode.
yeah, like kind of like a midlife crisis, but apparently that's not, we're too young for that, so they
Right.
say. Um, and there were a lot of factors with it, mental health, physical health, just the world in general, unprecedented times about. And we found that as we were having conversations together, we were unpacking that and we were like, I feel like we can't be the only people who are in this like millennial age range who are hitting like the 30 mark. Cause you always think like as a kid, I'll have it all together by
Mhm.
the time I'm 30. And no, not us. So it's kind of like getting a little real about that, and we
Yeah.
thought there's got to be some other people who feel this way, and it just kind of spiraled from there, much like our lives just spiral. And yeah,
I
and then it grew.
I was about to say I love it because I'm in the same boat. Like I'm 36. So I graduated in 2005. I don't know how many different career routes I went. I must have went like 10. And
Yeah,
in every one of them, there'd be like my mom's voice in the background, like, is that really a career? Are you gonna be able to make one? I'm like, God dang, man, just let me live. And then like every time you turn around, you're like, I remember when there was a 1 bedroom apartment here in town, it was like $500. And it was easy. And I made like $13 an hour working for a hospital. And then I leave that job and I go and I move. And then all of a sudden I move back out and it's like, oh, it's $1,200 now. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
yeah.
What
No,
happened?
really, it's just like there's a heavy focus in what we talk about like that feeling of I don't have this together, I'm
Mhm.
drowning. But also taking comfort and solace in like nostalgia. And there's this narrative on the internet of like millennials are so obsessed with their own nostalgia, like that's all they care about. And I really think it's because our lives have been like uncertainty
Yes.
continuously, like from the state of the world, unprecedented times, to the changing economic landscape. There's so much, and our lives have just been a lot of uncertainty. So our futures to us, for both internal and external reasons, feel like uncertain. But
Right.
what is certain is how much we loved Betty Spaghetti. So that's what we're going to talk about. Like, that's how we're going to numb the pain.
Oh,
And
I
that's pretty much the
agree.
whole point of the podcast.
It's so funny because you say that, right? And that, a bunch of people post up about, people who rewatch the same show over and over. It's because it gives them comfort. And I was like, oh crap, thanks for the call out.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I got like Paramount Plus, and I got so excited because they had all of the older Nickelodeon shows I grew up with. So what did I do? I dragged my daughter and I was like, you need to watch this show. And I love your other Instagram handle, Clarissa Explains Nothing, because
Yeah.
my favorite show was Clarissa Explains It All. And then I got her hooked on it. And I was like, yes, I
I
win.
love that. I love that. Teaching the next generation correctly.
That's right.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, obviously Melissa Joan Hart, classic, 90s, early 2000s, Queen, and Clarissa Explains It All. I mean, obviously I've heard that joke my whole life. Like every time I'm like, hi, I'm Clarissa, they're like, are you gonna explain it all? And I'm like, super original. Thank you. So I wanted to take a spin on it. But ironically, I'm not named after that show. And my mom was very upset when she realized that that's what everybody She's like, "Oh, no."
Oh,
So, I think it's alright, but
I always love when you guys post up like it's like the little quizzes of, what was your favorite 90s show? What was your favorite song? Because I was sitting there, no lie, I drowned my husband out in Spice World. I was like,
yes.
yeah, he's like, what are you doing? I was like, Spice Girls. Spice Girls. Just be quiet. Like,
Yeah,
let me live.
yeah, that is me. I know my partner literally left the house the other day because I wouldn't stop playing Creed. He was like, "I gotta
Oh no.
leave." And he went to the store. So, it's a lifestyle. It's
It is
not
what?
just for show, it's not just for the podcast, it is a lifestyle.
That's right. And I think I enjoy your podcast because it gives, especially those from the different generations, like more of an understanding of why millennials are the way they are. Because I mean, 2001, first year of high school, the Twin Towers go down.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in gym class, and I remembered my whole day. I was like,
Yeah.
we sat in gym class, we didn't go anywhere, and that was it. Also, at the same time, I think the same year, Aaliyah passes away in a plane crash.
Mhm.
And then, whatever high school debauchery happens throughout the year,
Yeah.
which there's obviously always something. So,
Yeah, I remember so much of it, and it's like I said, I'm on the like the younger end of the millennial spectrum. But please don't get rid of me. I'm still
oh
part of
no,
it. I'm always like, I know I'm close to the end, but I am in here.
they're like, I'm
Uh,
not there.
yeah, but like I remember being in elementary school, and I can recall again that almost entire day where the towers went down, and watching that on. They turned that on in like our first, second grade classroom, and like
Made you
I
watch it.
watched people,
Right.
jump, and it's wild stuff. And it really does create a complex. And there's always going to be people on the internet. We get plenty of them in our comments and whatnot that are like, millennials just want to complain about everything, you babies. Okay. Okay.
Fine.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure. I
Sure.
win.
Yeah. But there's some stuff. I think we're a little bit justified in some of our shared issues that
Yes.
stem from some of this stuff.
Well, then they're always talking about, like, I can't believe you guys watch this. I will say, though, it is wild when you're raised as a millennial because I went back and watched Ren and Stimpy as an adult. And I remember vividly watching that show with my dad. And in my brain, I'm like, my dad let me watch this shit? Like,
Yeah.
what the hell?
I had the same thing with Cow and Chicken.
Yes.
Yeah, that was like my favorite show, but my mom was like, "You can't watch this." And then my mom would leave and my dad would be like, turn on Cartoon Network. We're watching Cow and Chicken. And as a kid, I thought that was so cool. And now I'm like, that was not cool. That
What? Like,
was
what
not
was
cool.
wrong?
Yeah, like this, I should not have been watching this. It explains a lot, probably.
Right? The humor.
That's the horror story right there. That's what I should.
Oh, speaking of horror, were you a Goosebumps reader?
I was, yeah. I was a big Goosebumps reader. I really enjoyed Fear Street probably a little more
Yes.
though. There was that one called like The New Boy that I remember so vividly, and I loved those ones. Those were probably my favorites. But yeah, I was a big Goosebumps reader. Um, I liked. I can't tell you what it was called, but there was this book that I found in my like fifth grade classroom, and it was I think it was just called Ghost House. It was not a Goosebumps thing, but it was this house was haunted by this little girl who had had an accident with fireworks, and they called her, I'm not joking, Firecracker Susie. That was her name, and I have never forgotten because I'm like,
Like,
oh my
why?
god. Because yeah, I've always been a fan of like the horror and the spooky stuff, but sometimes that some of those things that we were reading, I'm like, oh my god.
I know, I sit there and I was like going through something. I was like, oh, there it is. I found out where it came from now.
Yeah.
Because
Like
my
this
husband's
is
like,
it. I should take this into therapy with me.
right? My husband's like, why do you like this so much? And I'm like, I don't know. And then I started thinking about it, and then someone mentioned Goosebumps, and then I was like, oh, look, I found like an old R.L. Stein, like one of the more, what are they called? The young adult novels,
Yeah.
where it was like, I want to say for this one, it was like either late 1800s or maybe early 1900s, but it dealt with, like the dueling families, and one person dies on one family. So eye for an eye, we're going to go after this person some sort of
Yeah.
way by marrying into the family and all that different stuff. But then
Wild stuff.
it was, but I also thought about it. Uh, Last name was Silverstein. He was like,
Shell,
yes,
sidewalk ends, that one.
Sidewalk Ends, and there was one other one, but I read those like repeatedly, front to back. I don't know how many weeks in a row in elementary school, and I'm like, that might have been it too, because I went back and read them again, and I was like, that was a little weird.
Yeah, there was a picture book that I was obsessed with. I still have it. Like that's how much I liked it. I got it at the Scholastic Book Fair.
Right?
We'll never forget. And it was called The Spider and the Fly. And it's all black and white and it's creepy and that was my whole
Mhm.
thing. But I looked at it recently and the whole premise is basically like this spider manipulating this fly like a serial killer. I was like, this could be a Bundy documentary. This is insane. It was like, but I loved it. And I don't know if I loved it and that stuff was helpful because I would have loved it anyway, or if those kind of influences made me love the kind of genre that I love. I don't know. I'm too far down the rabbit hole to question it these days.
I'm in the same boat because I sit there and I think about, okay, what did my grandma's like? Right.
Yeah.
So the one that watched me during the week for school, like she'd take us to go to school and then she'd pick us up and then my parents would pick us up. She read true crime or fictional true crime, right? So something that dealt with a murder or like the Agatha Christie's. And I remember her letting me read those, and I had just started like sixth grade, and I was like, okay. And then I thought about it, and I was like, that was kind of weird. Then I think about my grandma's house on my dad's side. This lady she did like witchy things, but she was a Christian lady. So like if she found out someone was pregnant, she'd do like, I don't remember. My mom said it was like something hanging something from like a thread. And
Yeah,
if it
you
went
see what
one
directions
way,
it spins.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we had like all of these little emblems everywhere. And she would believe in certain things. Like if you spilled salt, holy crap, you better be throwing that over your shoulder, like all sorts of stuff. And then there was this one room that I hated sleeping in. So I was so glad whenever I think it was like her youngest daughter finally, like my youngest aunt finally moved out, because the room that I had to sleep in had all the creepy Cabbage Patch dolls and the ceramic dolls. And I'm like, I can't do it. Like I couldn't sleep. I hate dolls like that.
They're so bad. I know. If
Yes.
it wasn't a Barbie, I didn't know. Like they're
Yes.
okay. But I remember my grandma once got me a bunch of those like porcelain dolls, and they were horrifying. Like, I know she was just trying to do a nice thing, but I was scared to death. There was one, she didn't get it from me. She got it for like one of my aunts or cousins or something, but it was Princess Diana, like in the dress, but
Oh,
the eyes, I swear they followed you. It was,
yes.
I hated it.
Name
I
for the
hated it.
Cabbage Patch. Like, I don't know what it was about their faces, but their faces creeped me out so bad. And I was like,
Yeah, they're
they're
too
gonna talk.
round.
They're gonna talk to me, and I know that the mouths are sewn shut, but they're gonna talk to me.
Yeah, like also, why did they have to sew them shut? You know, why isn't it just painted on? What happened?
So
Now that's a horror novel. Somebody,
it's
somebody
hard.
should.
It's so bad because I actually don't think the Annabelle movies are that bad. Like
Me neither. I mean,
I
they're
like
fine, but they don't, scare the
they don't
pants
do
off
it
of me
to
or
me.
nothing.
Yeah, it's more so just okay, all right.
Yeah,
But
but
like
real life
they,
dolls. Mm-mm.
yes, I forgot who was there. Was someone, I think, was it on TikTok? Someone was showing. Oh no, I was watching Josh Gates. It was like Expedition X or something, and he was prepping his two people to get ready for like an expedition, obviously. And he shows this lady who owns just a room full of dolls. And like one of the doll's arms just fall down as she's panning to it. And I was like, that is why I don't have dolls. I will
Mm-mm.
have stuffed animals out the yin yang. I will go to everywhere. Do not bring me a doll.
No, same
Same for
here.
clowns.
I
Those
hate
porcelain
clowns.
clowns. Ugh.
I hate clowns. I am scared to death of clowns. That's like my
Me
one of
too.
my actual real like phobias, and I don't know why. I can't
Same.
pinpoint it. Like everybody's like, "Oh, did you watch It Too Young?" Yes, but that didn't scare me. I don't know where it came from, but I'm terrified of clowns.
I don't either. Like, I'm like you. I like the religious horror movies. I like the traumas that come because I don't know why. Well, I do know why. Religion brings trauma straight out. Like, you're either going to be damned or you're going to be great. And either way, you're not going to appease everybody.
Yeah,
But just like Catholic horror movies, those are always the best. There was a Heath Ledger one called The Order where I
I
had
don't think I've
almost,
seen it.
oh, you have got to find it. So it's about
Okay.
sin eaters. And it
Oh,
has some of the people, the heavyset guy, the skinnier guy, the two that were with him in A Knight's Tale, plus the girl that was in A Knight's Tale,
oh,
are
okay.
all in it with him as well. It's really good.
I'll
Like
check it
I
out.
love that movie, yeah. But
Okay.
it's just I love those kind of movies. I also love whenever like if it's an indie film, especially like the Korean, the Japanese, and the Chinese, they do fantastic found
Yeah,
footage.
yeah, they're really having a moment right now too,
They
which I
are.
love. But I remember one of the first, not one of the first, but that I can still remember. Yeah, I saw The Grudge when I was way too young to see it, and I was like, "This is so cool." I loved it. So like some of the imagery, I think
Yeah,
with that like sect of the genre, really good. Like
yeah.
really good, really dark. I think we got a lot of good ones for that of almost every subgenre of horror in the 90s and the early 2000s. Like
Yes.
you've got your slashers, you've got your supernaturals, you've got your kind of religious horror type things.
Mhm.
And then if you keep going back, there's something for everybody. Every trauma, there's a horror film for
There's
that.
somewhere.
You
We
know?
got you. We checked that box.
Yeah, like we got it.
Daddy issues, got it. Mommy
Yep.
issues, got it. Were you kicked out of the house? Got it. Like,
Mommy issues, really. There are so many horror films like that.
yes.
But yeah, I like the religious kind of ones as well, just because again, like I said, it's something that's so ingrained in Western civilization. I grew up, Southern Baptist kind of deal,
Mhm.
so there's a lot of that. And when you get a little older, and and I'm not anybody who believes whatever they want. I'm not hating on that. I'm glad it makes you happy.
Right.
But when you get older, and if it doesn't make you happy, and you think about it a little bit, and I'm like 7 years old, and they're telling me that I'm gonna go be on fire forever if I steal a Snickers.
Right.
That doesn't seem cool.
Yes. The
But
scare
that's
tactics
yeah,
that were
it's very
used.
fear induced. It's like this
Mhm.
unspoken fear, or sometimes spoken, but even when you get out of it, it like stays in that
Like in
kind of
the
yeah,
back of
like the
your mind.
undercarriage of your
Yeah.
mind, like, oh, but what if I go to hell for this?
You're like,
I think
I'll
that now sometimes, and I'm like, I haven't been like in church my entire adult life,
same.
but what if I go to hell for this? It's
I
crazy.
I joke around with my husband. I was like, "Up, look, there's my little hand basket ready for me to go down."
Just embrace it, I guess. I don't know. But that's part of why I wanted to write about it a little bit, because again, it's like you hear so many things that make you like this is what'll take you there, and we're all trying to question it. And it's this big existential question, whether you were
Yeah.
just raised in religion or you're still in it, or even if just being in Western society, it's part of it. So I was like, what if, let's dive down this fiery rabbit hole. Let's
So,
see what could be down there.
so what? Just to share a little, like, what is one of the? Because there's the different levels. So if you want to talk about one of the levels and what he goes through, which one seems
Yeah.
to stand out for you the most?
Well, the premise of the book is, and I'm not going to try to pronounce it, even though I
Mhm.
wrote it down. Um, but one of the deepest circles of hell in the Divine Comedy and Inferno is for like fraud and murder and being a traitor, essentially,
Mhm.
like treason. That's the word. And there's this concept that if you make it there, if you're so evil that you make it there before your like earthly body dies, that a demon can kind of infiltrate the world through you, because like you're
Oh,
that evil. And that concept like fascinated me, and so that is that, those deepest circles of hell where it's the fraud and the murdery section. That's a big part of this story and this character's plight, because he's, like I said, he's not a good dude,
see
and
a
he's so
politician.
evil that he has to kind of grapple with that. But that concept really was interesting to me, because I like the religious horror and like the exorcisms. That's fun.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure it's not fun if you're having one, but it's the movies are fun.
movies are good to
Um,
watch.
yeah. But I always kind of, the reason that I might not like be as inclined to watch them all the time is because I think when I kind of thought about it, I was like, well, how do they explain that? Like, why does a demon? How do you get a demon? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah,
And this is maybe one explanation. This is not an exorcism book, but it's
right.
sort of like I don't know, if exorcisms had an origin story,
I
this
like
might
it.
be kind of a version of that, I guess, for lack of a better description.
So, did you do a lot of? Obviously, I'm assuming you did, but I'm going to ask anyways. Did you do a lot of research whenever you were trying to build your layer, each layer that you did with throughout the book?
Yeah, I did some research. I had read Inferno like years ago, but I had to dive back in and go in with a highlighter and, figure out what happens, what do these things kind of look like. And I took my own spin on it too. So even if that's what it was described as in the original work, it's not entirely like mirrored based off that. It just is inspired by that, I'll say.
Yeah,
So I took elements and I had to find a way to have them fit with this storyline.
that's
So
awesome.
there was some of that. There's a nod to Virgil, the guy who's taken him through. But he's not a good guy. So it's just like little nods here and there. I had to look up some stuff in Latin, which I haven't had to do in a lot of years. Um, so yeah, there was definitely some research elements just to help kind of build the world, and not to make it exactly like the Inferno portrayal of it, but to align it with what I wanted this person's experience to be.
Do you see spin-offs happening from this, or maybe like sequels, or
I don't know. Because in my mind it was very much like a one and done. Because like I said, I had it in my head for a long time, and then I rewrote it kind of on a whim. But there's potential for the story to unfold a little further. I'll say that.
okay.
But I don't wanna box myself in or anything yet. So
You're like, right?
maybe, but if nothing else, there's enough of an open end that your mind can run away with it a little bit. Like you can use your imagination, and if that leads to some more stories, great. And if not, you can come up with your own.
That is awesome. I really like that. The other, so your other writings. So can people access those, like your shorthand or your short stories and stuff?
Not at the moment. But like I said, I've got things in the works. I'm working on two things right now. I'm just not sure which one's going to be finished first. One is kind of a very classic slasher type thing. And if you are a fan of 30 Dirty and Dying, I
Mhm.
set it in 2007 very specifically. So it's got all the early 2000s millennial
Oh,
nostalgia vibes. And if it, hopefully, like, I don't know which one will come first, but if that's your thing, then you might really like it. And the other one is another kind of take on some religious horror, but very like very, very much more in that Appalachian vein. Um, if anybody ever read or even watched like The Devil All the Time,
mm,
Donald Ray Pollock, like it's a similar vibe there, like a Southern Gothic type of
oh, nice.
vibe. Still supernatural, still has all that stuff, but a little bit deeper of a dive. So those are things that I've got in the works right now, but I don't have anything concrete yet, but definitely look out for it. Once there is stuff, I will be all over sharing it and the whole nine.
Oh, that's
But
awesome.
yeah.
That's exciting. So for the Appalachian one, like I guess I'm not really well known in like the religions that kind of take place in the Appalachian. Are they more of the like the Southern Baptist, or are they more of like the like Catholic?
So it really depends on where you are,
Right.
but I grew up, like I said, more in like this the southern area of like with the West Virginia range of that, and definitely Southern Baptist. There is some like Southern mysticism type stuff that
Yeah.
has always really intrigued me, but I don't know a ton about it. So there are pieces that go off of that. There is a very heavy concentration of Italian Americans in certain parts of the state, like where some of my family's from. So there's a Catholic presence there for sure. But the one I'm working on right now, it's definitely a take on like the Southern Baptist revival
Nice.
tents, like the whole nine. So that's sort of the vein I went down for that one in
That's
particular.
awesome. Love that. So I don't want to keep you too long,
No
but
problem.
I do want to ask, do you have a favorite one, a favorite scary movie, and two, a favorite scary show?
Oh man. Um, I mean definitely.
Even if
Uh,
you have to kind of like subgenre it, because like for me, I have some that are like in subgenres where they all kind of like equal out for me. So if you have that as well, like feel free.
Okay.
It's
Well, I mean, probably my overarching is Scream and the
Mhm.
Scream series. I love
Yes.
Scream. I just think it's so cool. It's so meta, but I love it. Um, I'm a big fan of like classic Bela Lugosi Dracula. That was one of the first like black and whites I ever watched, and I loved that. Um, Probably one of my favorites that I get the most crap for, which I guess I'll just say is my favorite for the heck of it, is Children of the Corn. I
Do you watch
love
the whole
Children of the
franchise?
Corn.
Just
Huh?
the first one or all of them?
Oh, just the first one. The other ones
Okay.
I don't need like Children of the Corn 14. This time it's personal. But I really love the first one. It's just like
Yeah.
quintessential 80s horror. I love it. So, and it's creepy again, the religious horror thing, the cult. Kids are always creepy.
Oh,
Courtney
especially
on
with
the
the
podcast.
staring.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. That Isaac guy, whoa. Um yeah, Courtney on the podcast is always the one that's like, kids will get you.
I know.
And
Dakota Fanning, when she was
oh
younger
yeah,
and would act, and she did that one with Robert De Niro. I think it was
hide
like
and
hide and
seek.
seek. Yes, every
Yes.
time she would just sit there and stare, and I'm like, oh, I'd thump her. I would thump her in the
I
forehead
would
to make her blink.
go outside and stay there. Like, no, no, no. Yeah, that one. Also the Haley Joel Osment in The Sixth Sense. He was
Hmm.
so like too good at being
Yes,
horrifying. Like
that
I
was a
question it.
really that one was one of the first few movies I think I saw that used a lot of symbolism, like colors, like using red
Yeah.
when you knew there was a death. Like I thought that was amazing.
Yeah,
However,
it
some
was
of the
really
other
intricate.
movies, yeah.
Yeah, there was the other, which again, I get some crap for this, but um, M. Night Shyamalan also did that, The Village,
I
and that
like
was
that
another
one.
one. Oh, that was another one that had a lot of that symbolism, like colors, flowers, like it. I don't know that it's a great horror film, but it's super creepy, and it really had a great atmosphere for that. And he really kind of committed to some of that symbolism, and I can always, be thrilled with that. Contemporarily, though, I mean, I'm a big Jordan Peele fan. I Get
His
Out,
are good.
Us, even Nope, and I don't love like alien science fiction movies, but I did really like Nope. So
Okay.
then, as far as spooky shows, I mean, I love American Horror Story.
Okay, so with American Horror Story though, because I'm a pretty avid fan, but there's certain seasons where I'm like, you will never catch me watching it.
Same. Roanoke, hate it.
We did like I didn't. It had a good. I kept telling my husband, I was like, it had great potential, and then they did the
100%.
whole crossover with the weird cannibals, and I was like, then they went weird. Like it
Yeah,
just
then they went weird.
they took a
And
whole
again,
and
that's one
muddled
of
it.
those horror representations of Appalachia I don't love. I
Right.
don't love that. Backwoods cannibals, raw. I hate that. I mean, it can be done okay, but that one was not one that I liked. I've said this about Roanoke, like if it would have ended before they were like, and now we're going back to the house with the found
Yes.
footage, I might have liked it. But then it just got too long for me. I didn't I didn't love Apocalypse
I didn't
either.
either. That one pissed me off. I'm not gonna lie. I invested
Yeah.
so much time in that, and then I was like, "That's how you kill the Antichrist? You run him over,
Yeah, like I could have done that.
right? Why didn't you do it at the beginning?"
Yeah. We could have
One.
just we could have handled this in season 1, like, but as far as great ones, I really obviously Murder House is,
Mhm.
top tier. I really liked Hotel with
I
Lady
did too.
Gaga.
I thought
I
she was
loved that
great.
one. And then I also liked Cult.
Mhm.
Just, again, I love a cult. Yeah, not to be in one, but
That's
I love a
just
good
to see
cult.
it.
Yeah, it makes for a good story. Cult is one of the examples of American Horror Story though that I always feel like with every season it's going so good. And then around like the last quarter of it, I feel like Ryan Murphy and his team go like, "But what if all of a sudden the Zodiac killer was part of it?" And I'm
Thank
like,
you.
"Why?"
Right. Right.
Yeah, specifically in Cult, and when they were like, "What if Valerie Solanas was the Zodiac?" I'm like,
You're like, now we gotta stop. You gotta
"What
stop
if
it
she
now.
wasn't, though?" You know what I mean? What if
What
she
if we
wasn't?
what if I took your pen away real quick and we just end right here?
Yeah, like we
Okay.
could have ended this if you, but it's just the creative process, I guess. But it seems like every season there's just this one part that I'm like, why? Why are we doing this?
I thought that it was so I thought like I love Murder House and I love The Coven because
Hmm.
Angela Bassett, that woman is a
A
goddess. Oh my
queen,
god.
love her.
Jeez. Especially in a hotel whenever they were showing her through the ages as a like the vampire she was. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god. But when they did which one was it? The second season where they were in the asylum. So
Hmm.
I thought that was good up until we did the weird alien thing.
Yes,
And then
exactly
I was
that.
like, why did we do that? You ruined it.
Yeah. No, I love Asylum. I think Asylum is in my tops. It's
Yeah.
creepy. It's got all the, every part of a good horror story. But again, aliens, I was like,
Thanks.
and it was kind of fine when they were just like a very small part of it. Like when Kit was like, I got abducted by aliens, I swear. I was like, all right, I can deal with this. But then at the end, when it was like, and then they took him back. Like,
They made him the breeder. And I was like,
yeah.
why? Why did
And
we
then
do
it just
this?
creates questions. Like now I want a season about why those kids were so special and what the deal was. And I'm
Yes.
never gonna get it, probably. Sorry, my cat is freaking out right now. I hope you can't hear that.
Oh no, you're fine.
Okay.
I have a cat, 2 dogs, and kids. So if you hear anything in the background remotely screaming, it's probably one of the 5 or
One of
6.
those, yeah.
But that's how I felt about Asylum. I was like, okay. And then when I watched Coven, I was like, okay, we did good on this. Like, you sent the ones down to the. I like that they tied it into Apocalypse, right? Where Emma Roberts' character was stuck in the whole redundancy of like being in one of the levels of hell. Same
Hmm.
for Queenie. I thought that was great because they did a really good nod to it, tied it in. But like with Apocalypse, he ruined it. Like the end, seriously, we spent all this time and you
Yeah.
ran him over.
Yeah, I think that might be why Apocalypse, I dislike it so much because I was so excited for everything to like come together
Mhm.
in the universe of American Horror Story. And then some of it I thought was really strong. And then others I was just like, this is not what I
This ain't
wanted.
it. Yep.
Yeah, this ain't it. But I will say I did just recently watch the newest season, um, NYC.
That's
And I
the double feature, right?
No, there was the double feature, and then right after it, which
Oh,
I totally missed until I saw it on Hulu the other day, was NYC, and it's like 1980s New York, and it kind of overlaps with the AIDS crisis.
mhm.
It's very good. It's
Okay.
a big departure, though. Like if you're just ready for like Murder House, you're not gonna be thrilled with this. But if for nothing else, the last episode has a montage that
Mhm.
makes the whole thing worth it, in my opinion. Like it's poetry in motion. It's very good. So
That's
I will
awesome.
say that if
Okay.
anybody's questioning it.
I was kind of questioning it. I started like the season and then I was like, I better not get invested. And then I turned it off. But no, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it is a
great.
slow start. It's a slow start for sure, but they're it's a lot more artistic, I think. And if you've watched any of Ryan Murphy's other stuff, like Pose or some of the American crime stories, it's like you can see a lot more overlap with them than maybe past seasons of American Horror Story. So it's just a
That's
different
great.
mindset.
What do you think about the new season coming out?
With Kim Kardashian,
Yeah.
um, I think the concept looks cool because
Right.
again, the whole like evil babies thing, love that.
Yes.
And I did like that it was either in one of the like American Horror Stories or the double feature. I can't remember which one. They had an element of that. I love that, but I'm questioning the cast. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not trying to hate. I just
It almost, I'm not, I saw the trailer, was it this morning? And I was like, wow, Kim's playing her mom.
I haven't seen the full trailer yet either.
Oh,
I've just
so
seen the little like tiny clips and the
she's
art
a
clips.
manager.
She is Kris Jenner, final
Yes,
form.
yes, final form, Kris Jenner. Because I was watching it, and I was like, so it revolves around Roberts. Obviously, she's this big movie star, and she wants to be bigger. So Kim is her manager, and one of Emma Roberts' aspirations is to get pregnant and become a mom. And there's this whole thing of like, you can't, kind of like playing on the whole thing, you can't have a baby and have a career at the same time kind of thing,
Mhm.
and you got to pick one or the other. And she's having like all these terrible dreams, and Kim's like stroking her hair at one point in like the trailer, like while they're laying in bed, and I was like, well, that got weird. But yeah, I was sitting there, I was watching it, and she's like sitting behind the desk, and she's got like her two whatever they are, like secretaries or whatever right behind her.
Yeah.
And she's talking and she's got this look on her face, and I was like, wow, that looked like Kris Jenner for a second. Like, oh my
That's
god.
probably how, if she does a good job at it, if there's any role that she could probably do well, it's playing her mother. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch
Right.
it. Even
You've
if it's
already
just to hate on it, I'm gonna watch it.
you're invested.
Yeah, I
Because
have to see this. It's like
it's it.
I was like, I'm gonna watch it. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I will watch it. I really like I said, I'm a big fan of Ryan Murphy's like television and
Mhm.
like I think he's great. He does make some strange decisions sometimes that I'm like, I don't know if I would do that. So it's like every time I go into something, I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be a work of genius or if I'm going to be like, what?
What did you
Why?
do? Right.
Yeah, like,
That's I didn't mind his American Horror Stories when he did like the little shorts, like each one was different. Kind of um got me prepped a little bit for an understanding of whenever Del Toro came out with his Cabinet of Curiosities, which I absolutely love. I'm a huge Del
yeah,
Toro fan.
yeah, I
Like,
love that. And I liked the stories too. Like, I didn't like all of them, obviously,
right.
but I
I
liked
didn't
the
like
overall thing.
yeah. So I thought I hated the Appalachian one, or the one where they were at Yellowstone or wherever they were, where they were still playing on the whole like backwoods people being
Yeah.
cannibals. And that's how your people go missing.
Yeah,
Hated
it's not my fave.
but I loved it was one with oh, I'm not gonna remember. I know her mom's name, Carrie Fisher's daughter, Billy Lord.
Oh, Billy Lord, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I loved her episode where she was trying to get pregnant. She was like
Yeah.
rich. She thought her husband like really loved her, and then come to find out he's a fucking con artist.
Yeah,
And she's
that's the
trying
one
to
I was talking about, like, that I was like, if this new season has any form of
any
that, I'm
yes,
about
that'll
it.
be good.
Because I loved that one. The one about Bloody Mary, I think it was the last one. It was,
Oh, with the
yeah,
girl.
with the teenage girls. The whole like first half, I was like, I hate this. And then the
Mhm.
last like 20 minutes, I was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen.
Yes.
And then it ended. I was like, no.
Like now it's done. I thought it was a wild ride, and it was definitely an ode to like the slashers, but the one he had with Danny Trejo playing Santa Claus.
Oh, that one was, yeah, that
That one
one
was
was
wild.
wild. That one was very like, it's everyday, bro. This is crazy. Um,
I was sitting there and I was like, please highlight how much you don't like influencers and YouTubers.
I love when he does that though. Like it's one thing I will say and why I think I like his TV so much. He's so artistic while being very on the nose at the same time, and it's pretty hard to do that. And I think he does a great job at it. Like even with in each season of even American Horror Story or some of the crime stories, there's this big focus on like what it's been like to be a woman in the world and how some of the misogyny that's in the world has really affected us, and to turn that into horror and be so direct about it. That was the one part that was part of Cult especially that I really appreciated. So I love when he does that with certain topics, and clearly we know how he feels about the whole like rise of the influencer and stuff. So, I get it. I think he's no holds bar about it.
Mm-hmm. Did you watch Cabinets of Curiosities?
I did. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Again, I love stuff that is super visual and kind of takes you on that wild, disturbing-ish ride. Like you can't look away. I love stuff like that. So I really did enjoy it.
The episode I caught, one of the ones that stuck in my brain the most was whenever, well, it was like the really rich guy invites everyone out to his house.
Oh, yeah, vaguely remember it. Yeah.
And you couldn't, like, they were all sitting in like the room. I think he drugged them all with something, and they're all like listening to like, I don't know, some Hertz beats or something. And then
Mhm.
I couldn't tell if it went alien or not. And I was like, I don't know what just happened. Like that's how I feel sometimes when American Horror Story takes their really left turns. Like
Yeah.
going in the circle. I'm like, where did you go? Come
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, and sometimes it can be great and other times it's like I don't know how I feel about this, but you just gotta watch it and go into it. And
Yep.
I feel like that's something with a lot of horror and spooky stuff, like because again, there's so much subgenre, there are so many themes happening at one time. Uh, and that's why I love the genre, the constant overlap of some really dark themes and subject matter. And sometimes it gets a little weird, even for horror. But just buckle up, and if you hate it, you hate it.
That's right. I agree. Because there are some where I found them and I'm like, where did that go?
Yeah,
I watched a 1998 found footage. It was actually before Blair Witch came out. So they were trying
really.
to say, yes, it's called The Last Broadcast, and it was actually about it was about these two reality guys. They hook up with another guy. They go into the Pine Barrens to go look for the Jersey Devil.
I've never heard of this, but I need to watch it now.
It was a 90s movie, I will put it that way.
I mean, those are their
Those
own
are
kind of special.
yes. The directors, this was their debut. They actually were in the film. They were two of the stars.
Wow.
And it only cost $900 to make.
That's always such a great sign. especially with found footage, because it's like Blair Witch Project. You read about how like bare bones that was,
Hmm.
and you feel so bad, like it's like its own horror story within a horror story for those poor kids. So it's like it says something about how it's gonna turn out.
So, do you have any other horror films or movies that you're into?
I mean, so many, like I said, but it's
Do you
hard to
have
narrow them down. I mean, I love the classics. I love Halloween. I love, as far as 90s, I am a big Final Destination fan. I
yes,
love the Final Destination. 90s and early 2000s.
I will not
Um,
lie. It definitely scarred me of hot tubs and tanning beds, and what was the other thing? Oh, the big
the log
logs.
trucks.
Absolutely, I will
Yeah.
never.
I have this um I know that it affected me negatively
Mhm.
because I have a very strange fear, and it has morphed into something that is part of my OCD at this point. It's very deeply ingrained in me, of things just spontaneously catching on fire in the most catastrophic way. Like when I leave my house, I unplug like the coffee pot and the toaster and everything because I'm like, they'll just catch on fire. And my partner, he's like, that makes no sense. Like, do you realize how many things would have to happen for that to go down that way? And I'm like, have you ever seen Final Destination 2?
Right?
Where the guy is in his kitchen after winning the lottery and everything catches on fire and he burns up. And I was like, this is where it all comes from. I'm scared to death of things just catching on fire for no reason. And I don't think I'm ever going to I mean, if I haven't gotten over it yet, I'm a
Yeah.
lost cause. But I still love the movies. But yeah, tanning beds, the log truck, I think scarred a generation.
Oh my
Um,
god.
Elevators, hooks, just inanimate objects, really.
All of it.
Yeah, you could just
Everything.
die out there. Maybe that's why we're so nervous as a
Maybe.
generation.
Well, I was sitting there thinking, right? Because I used to not be fearful of going on carnival rides, like when I was real little.
Yeah.
And then I stopped and I started thinking about it. And like my conscience is telling me that the reason why you don't like it is because it goes up in a day, it goes down in a day. Absolutely true. And then I sat there and I thought about it some more. And then I watched one of the Final Destinations with a roller coaster. And I'm
Yep.
like, there it is. There,
That's it.
right
See,
there.
it can happen. See, it could happen.
And you try and tell me those are quality checks, okay? Tell me they go up in a day, they were quality checked, and they're absolutely sound. There's
Yeah,
no way.
especially the ones that are like in a Walmart parking lot on
Yes,
wheels.
yes, and you hear
No,
it
thank you.
creaking.
Yeah,
You
it's
can.
like
Oh no.
I think I'd rather like get strapped to the hood of a Subaru or something.
I'd rather let my daughter learn to drive. That's where we're at.
That's
I'll let
bravery.
I'll let my 4-year-old take me for a ride today. Like
That is bravery.
I'll take my
Truly.
chances.
Yeah, really.
Oh. Okay. Well, actually, I didn't hear it. Maybe well, you kind of said it was Children of the Corn, but do you have another religious horror film that you absolutely like you have to watch it?
I mean, like, so Children of the Corn obviously is one. Oh, now I'm like completely blanking. I mean, I love The Exorcist.
Hmm.
That's a great one. Um, that The Village is sort of religious horror-y. Like I said, I wouldn't put it in top tier, but it's worth a watch if you've got a free afternoon. Um, I don't know. There are so many, but those are probably my tops, particularly Children of the Corn. I love a good corn cult, and
Oh
it doesn't get better than that. So for me, but like I said, there's so many, and I think it's a genre, if for nothing else, that kind of undercurrent of fear of like damnation and fear mongering and essentially scary stories to tell in the dark, but like the King James version that you can identify with no matter what level of relation to religion or sub denomination
yeah. Hmm.
you've had, whatever your experiences is, you'll get it in some way.
Yeah.
So it's a good subgenre for me.
Okay. Well, so while we're let's, let's gonna wrap up. But so as we wrap up, tell everyone where they can find you. when your
Sure.
book releases and the frequency of your podcast, like when they can
Sure.
expect new episodes and everything.
Sure. So I am on Instagram and TikTok at Clarissa Explains Nothing. With Instagram, there are some underscores in there. With TikTok, there are not. Um, I'm also on Threads under that same thing. I don't post as regularly as I should because I'm still getting used to Threads even being a thing.
Right?
Um, but I like it. And then the podcast you can find at 30 Dirty and spelled out dying all together, one word, on TikTok and Instagram. Um, and we post a new episode every 30 Thursday. So we're in season right now. We just kicked off season 4. So we'll have new episodes every week. And like I said, in October, we do all spooky season stuff. So we've got some Halloweeny type episodes lined out. So if this is your thing, which it probably is if you're listening to this, you can find us there and see if you want to stick around for the rest of the season. As far as the book goes, it is set to release on October 10th, and you can pre-order it right now. And for updates, you can follow me and you can follow the publisher, Tea with Coffee Media, and they'll have some updates as well on how and where to purchase and pre-order. So
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time out and, talking about your background, your book, all things horror. I love it. It's been a great, great conversation. And as she said, definitely check out her podcasts. They're absolutely hilarious. And honestly, if you're a millennial, you will definitely find some nostalgia in there and understand why you are the way you are.
thank you.
So with that, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.